Good day, gentlemen.
Hello. What's up, Andy?
Yo, it's been a while since I've managed to make one of these, and it's now the magical interim between
Yep.
time zone alignments. Finally make a full half. Oh, okay. Cheers.
I'm going to wait a couple more minutes to start the meeting in hopes that we get a few more attendees. Okay, well, we've got 8 folks, and it's 4 after, so I'm going to read our intro script. Just a reminder that this is going to be recorded and posted to LFX and YouTube, so anything you say could be looked up later and used to laugh at you. Your participation in these meetings is an agreement to abide by the Cloud Native Code of Conduct. I need someone to volunteer as a scribe. I am not great at doing both the notes and the running the meeting.
I can do it.
Thank you. Okay. So let's see. Anyone, I recognize all the names here, but if anyone wants to do an intro, feel free to speak up now or, I don't know, introduce yourself the next time or something. And let me see, do we have a presentation scheduled? We do, Jen. You were going to share something about the security controls, milestone 1.
I do have a brief update on the Caverno assessment as well. I'm only here for the first half.
We can certainly get to that pretty soon if you want. If you're here for that and then hoping to leave afterwards, we can definitely make that happen. Let's see. It would be nice if Justin were here to talk about the Kyverno stuff as well, but it looks like we have no Justin. So
Yeah, I think Justin's at some other conference thing. I know he said he was going to be out this week.
yes, we're not hearing you, Jen. So let's talk about the Kyverno stuff in the meantime.
Right, thank you. I've spoken to Justin a few times in the background and Karina as well. I appreciate the fact that there are a couple of meetings here, either that I missed or was unable to attend. So apologies for spurious or infrequent updates. The state of things is the TOC were happy that the digging that we did in the assessment generated a tracking issue with some bugs that were fixed. So there was a lot of preemptive work from the Caverno team that kind of happened in parallel to the review and was prioritized over some of the review elements. That includes things like denials of service and memory leaks that were discovered just from conversations. So huge thanks to everybody who contributed in. It was extremely valuable. As of last week, we were almost ready. There were just 4 or 5 outstanding questions, and they have now been addressed as of Monday. So going through the doc, we have everything that we need to put together a short final joint assessment. As Justin's embellished over some of the previous meetings, we went from having a self-assessment. I moved that into the joint assessment as per the tag security documentation. However, the documentation and expectation were slightly different. So I perhaps went through a more exhaustive process than was necessary. And I'd like to just raise that issue for the group that the official documentation on how to do this is not quite aligned to how the optimal route through should be. And very specifically, that is working more on the self-assessments and not having an interim expanded joint assessment document and then going straight to the final recommendations markdown. So as it stands today, the document is now fully embellished. I need to just ping a couple of people specifically for a denial of service query that looks like it's answered to my satisfaction. And then this doc will turn into a short recommendation document that looks a lot like this document, which is the tracking issue, which is linked at the top. Just drop this in the chat now. And as you can see, the Caverno team took the output of the assessment in flight and really ran with it. And they've done a lot of remediative action in the meantime, including specifically that restrict global context access and implement cache bounds. So again, really valuable work from the team. I will get this done and drafted in time to discuss it with the Caverno team at KubeCon. There is nothing really that sticks out as a prickly pear to be addressed still. But you know, I've known Jim for a while, and out of courtesy, at least, we'll just close the loop. And I understand it was frustrating for him at times because they were looking to hit that deadline. There were questions over whether they actually achieved that. It has gone through the TOC on the route to graduation, and I think actually, just trying to remember what that final date was. The TOC, it's open for comments until March the 16th. So I'll have that document over by then. But there is that public issue on, I'll just add that due diligence in there as well.
I think Justin had wanted to make sure that the meeting happened at some point to debrief between the assessment team and the Kyverno team. It sounds like you're planning to do that at KubeCon?
Correct, yeah.
Great.
And it does feel unless someone else would like to correct me, it does feel more like a debrief and sort of running back through things. There is nothing that I can see that is outstanding from a security perspective, what a wide perspective, but from our side of the fence. Great, that's it from me. Thank you very much.
Jen, is your mic working any better?
Let's see. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yay. Okay, cool. I'll share my screen.
Lovely. We're going back to community demo, item 3 on the agenda, for those of you following along.
All right. Can you guys see my screen? And it should look like the contribute site.
Yes, it is. The text is very small because your screen is very wide.
Let's see. How's this? Better?
Better.
Cool. Okay. I'll just send the link to this as well because this is available as a deploy preview, just so everyone can look on their own system. The only thing I wanted to do was just kind of go over what this is, how it's represented, how it looks in the contribute site from a source code perspective, and how we might possibly use it, and kind of get some consensus there to determine if we should keep moving forward in this initiative or just kind of end here and deliver this and then call it good for now. So here we have a preview of the Cloud Native Security Controls Catalog. This is represented, if you guys have heard me talk about Jamara before, this is represented in Jamara layer 1 called a guidance document. And it's broken down the way it was before in the CSV and represented as a unique ID for each structured piece of guidance or objective, a title, the document where it originated from. So this is pulling from the Cloud Native Security White Paper, versions 1 and 2, and the Software Supply Chain Best Practices paper. And then we have a high-level objective, a mapping to another guideline or framework. In this case, we just have 853 like it was in the original document, and then just some non-binding recommendations on how to achieve that original objective that we're talking about. So this is mainly translated from that original CSV. If any of you guys are familiar with it, it's actually already linked in the acknowledgements as well. And it goes through all of the families or the way that the guidelines are broken up and gives a quick description of those. And then if you're interested in seeing a particular guideline under a family, you can just go to view guidelines. And then here we have the identifier for that particular guideline and the title. And the way it's laid out is we have the originating document, the objective is here. Some of them are pretty short. One thing I want to add is we didn't change the wording, or we tried to change the wording very minimally from the CSV and then build on that a little bit later. So a lot of this is mainly like translated and represented in a different way. So if you see those objectives and think, man, that could use some like expansion, we have the ability to do that. But in this initial delivery, we didn't change the wording too much. Here it has the guideline and which 853 control that this aligns with. And if you just kind of look further down, some of them have those recommendations that I was talking about. And the thing I want to go back to the end here is it acknowledges the original and then links right to it if someone wants to check it out, and then has additional Jamara documentation. So I'm going to stop here because I mainly wanted to show like this is how we're representing it. And I see Evan already has a question, so great. I wanted to take questions first before we talk about how it looks in the contribute site source code. So go ahead.
Oh, I appreciate that we are moving the content over directly, and I think that's a great first step. It does seem like some of this could could stand to have some cleanup. And I don't know if that's part of what you were going to ask about in the future. Specifically, as I was going through, I noticed that there are 2 requirements for multi-factor authentication.
Okay.
14 and 208. That appear to have identical objectives. So I'm sure that there's a bunch of other things to fix, but I didn't know to what extent we were planning to do more of that. So some of this also feels like it could be more hierarchical than it is.
Okay. That's good feedback.
Like a subset of, there's a whole bunch of access control, but some part of it is identity stuff, and some part is secrets management. And like, it feels like those could be subsections if you have a subsection mechanism. And I don't know if Jamar does. I don't recall off the top of my head.
Yeah, not like nesting families, if that's what you were looking for. The duplicate is a good call out. We were trying to remove all of those. There was a few because of the version 1 and 2 of the Cloud Native Security White Paper. So this is recorded. I can find the IDs, or if you just want to send them to me or give us that feedback. Yes, we're definitely trying to do
you on Slack. That way
that would be perfect. Thank you. Yeah, we are trying to do cleanup, but just not significant rewording, basically. It was the main goal. Marina?
Yeah, so super cool. I haven't looked at it in depth, so feel free to just tell me that I haven't looked at this yet. But I was just curious if, as far as like sorting mechanisms, if you could also sort by the like compliance frameworks, because I saw that you had like the mapping to like NIST 853. Is there a way to like sort it by their what's it called? Like by their because they have their own categories that they use as well. If so, someone through those, would they be able to map it back to this as well, or is it kind of more of a one-way mapping? Does that question make sense?
No, it does. It does. It right now it's a one-way mapping. We in Jamara specifically, we have the ability to create that other way mapping. It's just not released yet. But I do think people would be probably interested in that. Honestly, if someone was starting from a framework and being like, oh, what tag security guidance could I implement to achieve this? So that's really good feedback. And I think that once we adopt that new schema and it's released, I think we could probably do that.
Cool. Yeah, I just think it'd be an exciting addition. So great.
Yeah.
Riffing on that, do we have a scheme or mechanism for people to contribute those types of mappings?
That's a good question. So are we looking to like maybe it depends. Like, do you think we're looking to map like compliance framework to compliance framework, or our guidance to compliance framework?
I thought primarily our guidance to compliance frameworks, but I could be wrong.
No, I agree with you. That's why I was wondering, because like if it was compliance framework to compliance framework, I would think like maybe that belongs somewhere else and we just reference it. But once we have that additional document, the mapping document that I was talking about, we could add a mechanism for those to contribute. In fact, like, let me just switch over really quick to show the other tab. And I see that John also had his hand up, but let me just share. This is what it actually looks like in the contribute site. Very similar. I mean, like, Evan, this should probably look familiar to you because it's broken down a lot like the baseline. And here we have just a README on here that says, this is like what we have here. This is how you create the index file. This is how you put all of these pieces together to make a single document. And right now it's just the guidance catalog. And then eventually we could add that mapping document so people can contribute mappings. Did that answer your question? Or like kind of close the loop on it?
I think so. I guess my question was more about the human process than the technical, like where to enter the fields. Um, like, do we have a plan for soliciting this feedback, and do we, for example, want to keep all the mappings for NIST 853 in their own file, and all the mappings for, say, PCI DSS in their own file, or do they get sprinkled throughout the rest of these?
Okay, yeah, I think I understand. I think the mappings would all be in their own file, instead of sprinkled. That's kind of what we're actually trying to avoid, is having them sprinkled throughout the guidance definition, and instead being like, this is the guidance definition, we're gonna map it to this framework. So very different from maybe what you're used to right now, because I know we've seen that.
I think we've been finding
Yeah.
problems with what I'm.
Yeah.
Anyway, I don't want to take from John's questions.
Go
No,
ahead,
I
John.
just mostly comment to say, as the tag security and compliance group, I really appreciate this, and correct me if I'm wrong, being some of the first compliance work that the group has done, and so that's really it's really great to see that. And I also appreciate the relationship, and you can see kind of in the structure of the families, connecting past recommendations to the supply chain security best practices, the securing artifacts, the build pipelines, that sort of structure. It's really nice that we have a way to relate it to other work that we've done and have provided value. And maybe just to also comment on the some of the stuff Evan was asking about. Anything that's not a compliance crosswalk spreadsheet would be great. So the standard is very, very low because we always just see spreadsheets. And so anything we can do to make that better, is, even if it's very, very simple, I think will be helpful.
Cool. Thanks, John. To even kind of add on to that, I just created this quickly. Hopefully you guys can see it. If you can't, I will send it on Slack. I just wanted to talk, and maybe we could like pull the thread on that a little bit, about like how this could be useful or how it could be used in our other processes. So we typically, like, we're producing products. We have our white paper content. We have technical guides, especially if you look at the IAM white paper that's coming down. Like that's more of a guide that a developer might follow as they're building out a new application. So we could build it into these, like, take that type of information, build it to these structured objectives, so they could be leveraged by projects that are trying to, for instance, create an end user hardening guide for their users, maybe in regulated spaces. And exactly, I think, John, you brought this up maybe like 2 weeks ago. So this could support those security decisions, I think, where they create a control and say, this is the way you can securely configure my project so you can use it in this type of space. And the rationale for that security decision could be, we've identified this threat, we need to mitigate it. And that could easily be identified, I think, through the security assessment process. And then the other one could be, tag security has these guidelines, we're following this guideline. So it kind of helps them do that development process and convey all of that to their end users. So I just created this quick graphic to convey that. But yeah, I think that's kind of the end of the demo, unless you guys had any more questions or comments, or we could talk about anything else in relation to this. Mike, I think you're talking. I don't hear you though.
No.
Actually. Oh, sorry.
No, sorry.
Okay. All right, cool. I will stop sharing. Thank you, everybody, so much for your feedback.
And I had a bunch of comments, but this looks wonderful, and I really like having the structured content as well as the, nice formatted content. So I think this was a big win, just even the conversion without further cleanup.
Yeah. And I appreciate all your comments because I know that you have a lot of familiarity with the structure. So it's, it's helpful. So thank you.
So to move on, I don't think that there has been a APAC meeting since our last meeting. So no other time zone meetings. Any TOC meeting updates that we should cover here?
It wasn't a public meeting. I think there was a Sandbox review meeting, but I learned about it after it had started. So I don't know what happened there.
Okay. So we covered security assessments. The Supply Chain Insights Initiative did not meet this week, so no updates there. Security controls we just heard from. MCP off. Any updates? John, I'm looking at you.
I have not been able to attend that recently, so no updates from me.
Okay. Security Slam is ongoing. Eddie isn't here. I don't know if Marina or anyone wants to provide further updates. If not,
I don't really know what Eddie posted in
happening.
Slack, so.
People are making progress. See last week for some details on progress. Issue triage. I don't see anything new we need to address. So I see someone put staffing KubeCon as a topic. Anyone want to say more?
Yeah, I created a spreadsheet more or less just copying the previous one. It looks like the times they sent out in the email for the shift hours have excluded the transition time. It was always kind of ambiguous before of like, do we need to staff the booth while they're coming through and changing the signs and everything else? So it looks like we don't need to staff those hours. And I think for most of the sessions, more or less rounded stuff out to an even 1 hour. So if you really want to sign up for a 40-minute shift on Tuesday, there's one of those in there as well too. And it looks like Justin is the only person who has signed up so far. So hopefully folks have an opportunity to sign up for that. And hopefully we can have at least one tech lead co-chair per slot to help out other folks. But at the same time, I think we've got a pretty good set of community folks in Europe who will be around, hopefully.
Do you want to link the spreadsheet in the meeting notes?
I think I did. Yeah.
Okay. Oh, Google Docs has disconnected for me somehow, so I'm not seeing any more typed things. Go Google Docs.
It will be there when you reconnect. How many folks will be there? I'm curious.
I'll be there.
Not me.
I was also curious if you've gotten any clarity on the staffing during the keynotes, because these times include that, which I don't think we do need setup time, I guess. That's fine, but but a lot of people can't enter the exhibit hall until after it opens after the keynotes, right? So just curious what the plan there is.
Yeah, that's a good question because I saw they actually sent out an updated email for the Times and they said we need to staff earlier. So I don't know if if they're planning to let people into the expo halls earlier or not. I did look at the schedule for the hours the expo hall was open and it didn't look like they had changed those. Um,
Oh
so
well.
maybe
I'll
I
figure it
will
out.
reply and see. Yeah.
I'm not overly concerned about it. It's better to have more hours listed, but yeah. Um,
Okay. Um, if we don't have other agenda items, do we have anything scheduled for next week, presentation wise? Okay. Well, if anyone can find a presentation, feel free to add it to the sheet for next week.
and just a quick note, I think we're going to cancel this meeting in 2 weeks, I think, during KubeCon.
Yeah,
Unless
I think.
here who want to run it. Yeah.
Yeah. Given the number of people who put their hands up for I'm going to be at KubeCon, I think canceling is the right. Especially since it's probably, prime getting dinner time.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, thanks everyone for coming, and thanks for the excellent demo and progress report, Jen. And I was going to thank Andrew for the update on Kyverno, but he's not here anymore. So. See you all next week, and then not the week after that.
Hi, everybody.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.